Hey everybody! Today we are going to talk about the dwarf planet Eris. I do work with her. I don't work with her that often unless a question that a client has for me specifically feels like it would tie into her energy or her archetype. Otherwise, I don't tend to use her in readings unless it feels necessary to, because fuck, there's so much already going on in the chart that why add in more things if it doesn't make sense to? Because there's already so much there just with the planets and like with Chiron. But since I've been looking up the US's Pluto return, I started looking a little bit more into Eris, and I wanted to do a video about her. So she was discovered on January 5th of 2005, so just slightly over 17 years ago. She exists beyond Pluto. She is, she's a little bit smaller, slightly smaller, but denser than Pluto is. And while Pluto takes roughly 250 years to return, right? Pluto's return, it takes roughly 250 years for Pluto to return to its place in a natal chart. Eris takes, I can't remember the exact number, but it's over 500 years. So it takes her even longer to like double the time, or a little over double the time, to return to a natal chart position, or a country's natal chart position, or what have you. So she's further out. And mind you, just because we didn't know about her earlier than when she was discovered, same thing with any planet, right, that's found, or anything. Just because we don't know about it doesn't mean that it didn't matter or doesn't exist or didn't exist before. It just wasn't in our consciousness, which is an interesting thing to think about. I don't know. I've been looking at charts from before she existed too, to kind of tie this in. And I mean, just because we didn't know about her doesn't mean that she wasn't doing her thing in some cases. So who is she? I'm not going to go too much into the mythology, just a little bit. Depending on what source you read, she will either be said that she is the daughter of Nyx or Night. She has also been said that she is the sister and partner of Eris. Some mythologies I've seen her listed as both. The one thing that she is kind of universally credited as doing is being one of the catalysts that started the Trojan War. She wasn't invited to a wedding because she was, I guess, kind of a shit stir. I can't really figure that out. There's really nothing else before that. It doesn't really say what kind of shit she stirred to get her not invited to this wedding. Doesn't really say from what I can see, what I found. But apparently she caused a lot of bullshit or something and wasn't invited to this wedding, and it pissed her off. So that's where this golden apple of discordia comes in. She stirred the pot there and essentially was a catalyst for the Trojan War starting. And I would like to know, why is it always a fucking apple? It's always a fucking apple. Why is that? Anyway, I won't go into all that, but I do have questions about that. Why is it always a fucking apple? Anyway, she is, because of that, and she also has like 14 kids. She has like 14 kids. They are all representative, like the darker sides of humanity. I cannot pronounce their actual names, so I will just pronounce their English translations. They are hardship, quarrels, lying, murder, manslaughter. I think stories and like storytelling was another one. I mean, none of these are, I mean, storytelling didn't have to be bad, but I don't think they mean it in a positive way here. But yeah, so she represents chaos, discord, strife, problems, stirring the pot. And then her children are all these other difficult parts of humanity. So what does this mean, and how can you incorporate this into a natal chart reading? Well, since she is the sister of Eris in some mythologies, there is like a tie to Mars. There certainly is a Mars tie to her. There's also a Pluto tie. She does feel Plutonian to me. And that could have to do with her being beyond Pluto, you know. But also Mars is the lower octave of Pluto. Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. So she does feel tied to Mars and Pluto. She does. She feels like she would lie somewhere, even though she's technically beyond Pluto. She does feel like she would lie somewhere along those lower and higher octaves. If they were connected by like a line, she would be somewhere on that line. That's kind of how I feel about her. There's also something Uranian about her too. There is. There might be kind of the, because I do think Pluto can be chaotic. I do think Uranus can be chaotic though too, in a different way. That's probably why I kind of tie her with Uranus, or there's kind of a Uranian energy there. But there's also, and I can't remember who exactly it was, but there is also a mythology where she's thought of as a little bit more positively. She's not just thought of as like the sister of Aries that enjoyed watching people die on the battlefield. Like this chick really enjoyed this, apparently. From what I understand, she really enjoyed this. It seems like even more than Aries did. But there is like a domesticated side to her that some people do, or that is brought up. I have also seen it said that she is exalted in Cancer, and I'm thinking it's probably for that reason that I've seen it said that she is exalted in Cancer. I don't really know if I mean, Pluto doesn't even isn't exalted anywhere. Nobody's really put it somewhere to be exalted yet. So I'm not comfortable saying Eris is exalted anywhere, quite honestly. But if the domesticated side of her is in like the protection of, I mean, she went to war. She did battles. She enjoyed it, but it seems like it was probably to defend her, defend her land, defend her home, say. So I can see the domestication in terms of like homeland or whatever. I could see that as being maybe a positive side to her. But generally speaking, people don't tend to have the most positive ways of thinking about her. And really, I don't know enough. There's not enough backstory with her mythology for me to really make a distinction one way or the other. It seems like her getting left out of this wedding, which quite honestly, I mean, to each their own, that wouldn't bother me, but to each their own. But it seems like it really bothered her to be left out. So there is a feeling with Eris that maybe fighting for ways that one feels like they are left out, or perhaps disenfranchised, or things of that nature. She might come out that way. She could come out that way, and that's not bad. I mean, if you're fighting for that, I guess it just depends on how you fight for it, right? That's what matters, is how you do this. But when I think of so I can see things like that coming up with Eris. Also, I think Eris can show how you stir the pot. I mean, let's face it, we all do it to a certain extent sometimes. Some people do it a lot. Some people try their best to avoid it, but everybody has done this. Okay? Everybody has done this at some point, where they caused a little bullshit for whatever reason. One causes a little bullshit. I think Eris can show that. I think it can also show where bullshit is started with you, where you might have to deal with that. I think a lot of that, how that goes in a natal chart, depends on aspects that Eris makes. If she makes a bunch of really hard aspects to different planets in the chart, it might, it depends on everything going on, but she might be more difficult for you. If she makes a lot of really nice aspects or easy, whatever, she might not be as difficult for you. But I do think that by house, she's been in Aries since she was found. And I'm pretty sure for a while beyond that. So I think at most we might have, I haven't looked at an ephemeris for her and that far back, but I'm thinking we're only going to have people with Eris in Aries and in Pisces. Maybe Pisces. So here, what matters more to me is the house. It's going to be more about the area of life that she might come out to play. So somebody with, say, I don't know, somebody with, say, let's say Eris in the 12th house, there might be unconscious strife or discord or even shit stirring that they start. They don't realize it. Or they might have that happen to them and not really realize it. It's always possible. Eris in the 4th house, perhaps this is more home and family based. Perhaps you stir the pot with your family, stir some shit up. Perhaps they do that with you. I don't think you always have to be the cause of the shit stirring going on here, but I do think that you could be. It just kind of depends on everything else going on in the chart, but that's kind of how I would think about her. I would also think that, like I mentioned, with Mars being the lower octave of Pluto and Pluto being the higher octave of Mars, and Eris feeling like she is tied to this in some way, I feel like at a lower octave, the shit stirring stuff is what comes up, right? Like the discord, the strife, the bullshit, that comes up, whether that's happening to you or you're causing it. At a higher octave, though, it might show the psychological basis for this. Why do you stir the pot? Why do you think this, or why do you think this happens to you? It takes a more Plutonian psychological point of view, which is ultimately the way that I think people should go with Eris, personally, because we can all stir the pot and cause bullshit or allow bullshit to be caused to us, but until we get to the psychological basis of why it's happening, I mean, it's going to keep, it's just going to keep happening. So, yeah, I would definitely look her up. And if you're curious, look up where she falls in your chart. I would pay most attention to what house, just because she moves slow as shit. And any aspects made. Aspects, oh, I didn't say this. Aspects, I would keep these tight, personally. I would say no more than 3 degrees for her. That's just my opinion. If you're like, bitch, you're crazy, you should be using a 5 degree orb, or no, you should only use 1 degree, whatever you want to use. That's just what I would use. I would use a 2 to 3 degree orb of separation, applying and separating from some other natal planet. And definitely, any conjunctions that she makes are gonna kind of, they might make that conjunction, they might make that planet, they might flavor that planet in a more chaotic way, and things might feel like more of a struggle with that planet. Seems possible. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. But if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck With Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Paterno Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like or subscribe or whatever the fuck people do with videos on YouTube, you can find us by searching for Let's Fuck With Astrology in the YouTube search bar. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can like and subscribe below. And if you do the Reddit thing, come join us on the subreddit Let's Fuck With Astrology. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all later.